Hey, John.
Hey, Kyle. Everybody looks so happy. I'm just checking to see if we've got a quorum, and I think we do. All right. I'm still waiting. I got another minute on my watch yet for 6:30. Alex, what do you think? Is it 6:30 on yours?
No.
Okay.
Oh, it is now. Yeah, now you're right.
Oh, no, it's not mine too. All right, we're good. I'd like to call the Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission to order on Wednesday, June 9th. It's 6:30 on both Alex and my watch, and Lisa's, because we always sync up. We are holding this as a Zoom meeting. The Zoom link is at the top of the agenda. Also, there is an available audio only. If you dial in the number and feed in the meeting ID at the top of the agenda, if you choose to go that route. We'll just confirm we have a quorum. So, Lisa, if you're on, could you? Thank you.
Brinkmeyer.
Here.
Broom.
Here.
Jesperson.
Here.
Ratcliffe.
Here.
Sale. Schultz.
Here.
And Williams.
Here. All right, and we have a quorum and the agenda was properly posted. We'll start with a Pledge of Allegiance. So find a flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 4 is public appearances, public's opportunity to speak on any subject, not a specific agenda item. So if the public would like to join in, please state your name, your address, and hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes, just in case we have a number of folks who would like to speak. So with that, I'll pause, and if you want to find your unmute button, if you want to speak, please do so. All right, we'll move on then to discuss and consider the meeting minutes from our Plan Commission meeting on May 12th. Any questions, comments, or a motion to approve?
John, I have item number 11. There was a vote of 5-0 and 1, and then it says motion carried with a voice vote of 7-0. I only have that editorial changed for that update to make sure the math is correct.
Yeah, that was a carryover. Thanks, Alex. Melissa had sent that to me after the agenda went out. So that has been corrected.
Okay, motion to approve with the corrections by staff.
Second.
All right, we got a motion by Alex, second by Kyle. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody oppose? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right, moving on. Item 6 is discuss and consider a request for a approval of a zero lot line application for Mitchell and Valerie Clement to split an existing duplex parcel located at 701 and 703 Court Crossing into 2 lots. There is some attachments in here. Aaron, I don't know if you want to touch on this. Or if the applicant's here as well.
It's pretty straightforward. One parcel now they want to split it into. The building exists, it's already there. The Utility Commission also reviews these. They looked at it earlier today and approved it. So we'd recommend approval as well. The only condition was just more of a reminder that the joint maintenance agreement needs to be recorded, and Mr. Clement is aware of that. He is here if you have any questions, but again, it is pretty straightforward.
All right, any questions or comments from commission members?
I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of the request of a zero lot line application from Mitchell and Valerie Clement to split one existing duplex parcel located at 701 and 703 Court Crossing into 2 lots with the condition that the maintenance agreement be recorded as well.
All right, thanks,
I'll
Don. Is there a second by Kyle? Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Anybody oppose? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Moving on then to item 7 is discuss and consider a request for approval for a site plan amendment for PBBS Equipment Corporation located at 380 Progress Drive for an approximate 1,260 square foot addition. There is a memo in the packet as well as some other documents. Aaron, you want to start this off?
Yeah, Rick Fisher is the project architect, and he's here and he can walk us briefly through the project, and then Kevin and I can go over our staff reports.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Thanks for letting me join the meeting. I'm Rick Fisher with Fisher & Associates Architects, and the project is to expand the existing business by adding another internal service bay to their current facility. The intent is to extend the building in the same color, material, fashion that they have currently. When I was on site, it looks like, and I was there after hours, it looks like they have 2 service vehicles, which are pickup trucks that I imagine will remain either in this new bay or parked outside. So I imagine there would be some service vehicles outside. They do have a trailer that was behind the vehicle, and that may be going in the garage in the service space. Currently it's hidden behind the building, so you guys probably never saw it, but I don't know if I think their intent is to put it inside just for, safety, theft, that kind of thing. I did hear from them last week that they wanted to expand the paving from what I currently show. I thought we would do is, since the construction process these days takes quite a bit of time, what I thought I would do is meet with them again, figure out exactly what they want to do, and then bring it back before you again. Approve it the way we have it submitted, and then send back a revision for either staff approval or board approval, whatever method you guys prefer. Essentially, I was on site, and it looks like there's a substantial hill behind the building that goes up several feet. So what they'd like to do is square off the pavement similar to the way it is now. So they take the pavement line and just move it back into the hill, extend the curb line. So the drainage pattern won't change at all. It would still be the same. Currently, there's no storm sewer in the area near the building. So it looks like it flows off the building, across the pavement into the curb line that's on their site, and then down onto the street. And then it flows, I think it's easterly at that point, to the storm sewer that's down the street. And I don't think there's any storm sewer for, several hundred feet along that street. It's all curb line flow. So there's no real opportunity to capture it other than what it does now. So the exterior materials will stay the same. The landscaping, under the current design, there's no disruption of any of the trees or bushes, except for ones. I think there's a pine tree that's in the way of the addition towards the back. But so no real landscape changes at this point, more restoration. From the grade shots I took, it looks like the flow works well for the grass flows and for the curb and gutter flows properly. There's no ponding or anything. So that all seems to work right. As far as exterior lighting, they don't plan to add any lights other than the required egress light on the back by the back door. So essentially it's going to just be more of the same. So are there any questions from anybody at this point?
Not for me yet, Rick. I think maybe we'll run through Aaron and Kevin's comments. And then if we do need to circle back, you're still here listening, and we'll catch up with you. But that way we'll flow all that in, because there may be some questions circulating between commissioners right now that'll be addressed by their memos as well. So Aaron, you want to take it away?
Yeah, thanks, John. I don't have a lot to add. It's a fairly simple project. It's consistent with our zoning. So I would recommend approval. I didn't have any conditions. I guess one condition we would add is just whatever the commission's desire is. If they want to see this again, if they do adjust the pavement, or if you're okay with that just being a staff review for Kevin and I think Kevin had a few minor comments on stormwater and things like that.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, I had a couple comments. Nothing. We were recommending approval as well. It's, I guess, considered a minor land disturbance. It was only at the time about 4,000 square feet of disturbance from what I could tell on here and everything from the first. Now, if that changes a little bit, we can work with Rick and them on that. We just mentioned a tracking pad should be located kind of where the new pavement was going to be. I mean, obviously they're going to be putting gravel down there anyway, but just to kind of keep from the building traffic coming in, to keep more of the dirt off the streets. We'll see what the revisions are, if there is any, but the new plan right now showed that there was going to be a roof drain at kind of the new northeast corner of the building. And our thought was to at least try to get that to drain basically to the east to get over to the grass as quick as possible, where they kind of showed a new swale. And then obviously it still drains down through the parking lot and everything, as Rick mentioned, but just to give it, get it off the pavement for a little while or whatever there. But if we extend the pavement there, we can work with Rick on that. Like you said, this all pretty much drains out right now as well. And then my other comment might not really be for this edition. It might be for what's shown as the future edition. But as Rick mentioned, there is a big hill back there. So it was more just a comment that at some point a retaining wall may be needed on the north side of this building or something, just depending on how far they grade things or whatever. So that was basically, that was all of the comments I had.
All right, thanks, Aaron. Thanks, Kevin. Any questions, comments from commissioners?
Aaron, are you comfortable? Don't want to put you guys out. Are you comfortable with a staff level decision on any changes to the asphalt that you guys would judge as minor, or should that go back through Planning Commission if there's a revision?
I would be comfortable with Kevin and I taking a look at it. I mean, there's only so much room to add more anyway, with the hill taking up most of the lot in the back.
Sure.
Other questions, comments from commission members? My only comment would be that it's great to see this business expanding and adding more square footage to their building. Obviously, things are going well, and it's always nice to see that addition or growth in the village. So we appreciate that. If there are no questions, then
With that, I will.
okay. Thanks, Don.
With that, I'll make a motion to for approval of a site plan amendment from PBBS Equipment Corp. located at 380 Progress Drive for an approximately 1,260 square foot addition, including the comments from Aaron and Kevin, and having them come back to staff for any parking lot expansion.
All right. Thanks, Don. Is there a second? Second from Fred. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. Thanks, Rick, for joining us tonight.
John, if I can jump in here, it doesn't look like we have.
Whoops. Yep.
Sorry about that.
Aaron? Go ahead, Rick.
Oh, I just wanted to thank you guys. This is a it seems like a really easy, great process. I appreciate that you guys are willing to look at this as a staff review. And when I bring it back to you, once I get the owner's comments and once they really start thinking about it, I have no issue with you if you decide that you'd rather take it back to the group rather than doing it internally. Is fine with me. So I appreciate the smooth process you guys have and the good open communication we've had on putting this together.
Good. Thanks for that feedback.
Easy to work in your community.
Well, we appreciate that. It's,
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Aaron, go ahead.
I was just going to say, it doesn't look like we have any public here for the public hearing, but we do have Jeff and Brian here from the city of Madison. So if we wanted to skip down to 10 and let them do their presentation on the boundary agreement, we could, if you would like to.
Do commission members have any issue with that?
No.
Okay. All right, then. So we will, Lisa will keep track of this. We'll move from item 7 to item 10, and then we'll go back to 8. So with that, this is a presentation and discussion with the City of Madison planning staff on a potential boundary agreement. So, you said Brian was here and Jeff?
Yeah, so as you'll recall, we had been working on kind of a three-way agreement with the town and the city and ourselves. That's kind of broken into two different agreements now. The city and the town are working on one, and the city would like to engage with the village to work on a similar agreement, just the two of us. So we just wanted to bring Jeff and Brian in to kind of talk a little bit about their process. They do these all the time. And a little bit about kind of the goals for this specific agreement.
All right, thanks, Aaron. So Brian and Jeff, you want to take it over?
Sure. Thanks for having us. Again, my name is Jeff Greger. I'm a planner in the planning division with City of Madison. I'm here with Brian Grady. Just want to briefly go over a little bit of background, what we've been doing with the town, and talk a little bit about what we see as potential benefits for an agreement with the village, and then just go over the map that we have thus far, and then take any questions you may have for us. So we've been discussing a potential intergovernmental agreement with the town of Cottage Grove officials for quite a while now. We believe we've come to an agreement, and we're having the city attorney with City of Madison draft out that potential agreement. And we're tentatively looking to take that out for public input later this summer into early fall, and then potentially get an agreement adopted winter of 2021. It might take till spring of 2022 to get it finalized. And so we've kind of been on pause a little bit while the village and the town considered a potential three-way agreement. But with that not seeming to potentially work out, the city is interested in a two-party agreement with the village. Some of the benefits that we would see from an agreement with the village, it would provide certainty for property owners on the future options for their property. It provides certainty for the city and the village when considering infrastructure investments. It would eliminate future disagreements between the municipalities regarding annexations. It would benefit the taxpayers by keeping property owners and developers from playing one community on the other, when you're talking about annexations or proposed land use changes or infrastructure, that sort of thing. And then it also makes extraterritorial jurisdiction review kind of a little simpler based on the agreed upon planned boundary line rather than being based on an ever-changing boundary. It can get confusing, especially for property owners, which community to come talk to when they want to do a development. So I'm going to share my screen here just briefly to go through a couple of maps. So hopefully you're seeing a larger map here of the overall area that we're talking about. This blue line is what is being proposed for the 40 or the boundary line for the length of the agreement. This purple boundary and shaded area is future City of Madison growth area. We don't anticipate getting out there for quite a long time, probably beyond the 40 years that's being proposed with the agreement with the town. So essentially, the City of Madison is interested in the properties, or expanding into the blue properties. The way we put this line together, we're trying to generally follow natural features, the creek, wetland, and floodplains. In some instances, we're following roads. We're trying to make it a logical boundary, easy to follow, and where it makes sense. We're trying not to split up properties between one side or the other. We're trying to pay attention to that as well. One thing that we've talked about with village staff is this area just north of County BB. Let me throw a different map on the screen here that zooms in on that. So we're talking about creating an open space buffer. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit further. This hatched area would be that open space buffer between communities. It creates a community separation area, and it also would provide the ability to provide stormwater management for potentially some development that could occur over to the east here. But for the most part, it would act as that community separation buffer between the village, town, and City of Madison. And then finally, I mentioned that we're going for we've been discussing a 40-year agreement with the town. City would be proposing a similar time frame for an agreement with the village. So with that, it's a quick overview of what we're talking about, and happy to take any questions you might have. But if it would help, I can put a map back up.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. Any questions or comments from commission members? I was making a comment. It's nice to see that we're looking to try to buffer the two communities, particularly around BB, where they really coming close to one another, so that we maintain kind of the identity of the city and the village, and the slice of the town that's in there as well, potentially after 40 years. So that to me is an encouraging sign, and I've been in those discussions a little bit with staff and city planners. So that I think is a positive for this type of agreement, in addition to what Jeff had rattled off.
I guess I have a question.
Go ahead, Melissa.
Thank you. So is it typical of Madison boundary agreements to be 40 years long?
They vary. I guess our preference is probably on the longer end of the scale. We've had boundary agreements that are 20 years and they seem to go by in a flash. And in developing areas, sometimes it takes a while for development to occur, and by the expiration of a 20-year agreement, maybe one side has done some of the stuff, but the other side of the boundary hasn't. So I guess our preference is longer term, just because how fast time flies. And it gives more certainty to those property owners for that longer period of time. There are clauses in some of our agreements where after a certain amount of time has passed, there is an option to opt out or not renew, that sort of thing. So there is some ability to, for flexibility in some of these agreements.
Thank you.
Other questions from commission members?
I guess, are
I'm curious if the boundary is different than what was presented to us for a potential three-way agreement. I was trying to find my old maps and I couldn't find them real quick.
As far as I'm aware, this is the same boundary that was presented previously.
Okay.
Fred, that's what I recall as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it looked like on the surface. I just was trying to verify. Thank you.
That other areas between the village and town, that wouldn't be part of this anymore.
Right. Yeah, the map was a little busier when we saw it last. But it had all those areas that were in discussion with the town. So those no longer are in discussion. So it's just that basically that blue line and that pink shaded area around 12 and 18, I think, that Madison's looking for an agreement with the village.
Could that map be sent to us?
Yeah.
Or emailed to us just so that we have it for when we go into closed session, I guess?
Sure, we can, if it'd be easiest, we could email to Aaron and he could get it out.
All right. Any other questions for either Jeff or Brian?
If you don't mind, if I can just jump in here briefly, we're aware that the town of Sun Prairie has also contacted you all, and they've been in touch with the city of Madison as well, as we become closer neighbors to them. And as Jeff and I were discussing this, I think one thing that's helpful to maybe think about or work towards is starting smaller and then expanding up from there, kind of taking on more and more from there. Obviously, the 3-party agreement is not in the cards at this point, but if the city can reach two-party agreements, that's a good starting point. And also with the town of Sun Prairie, the line that we've drawn in the town of Sun Prairie, we think is a very logical border. It follows like these wide open space corridors that have floodplain and wetlands that you really can't do much with. So Mother Nature's kind of created a good boundary line for us. I think it'd be beneficial if we can work something out to get something in place, and then after that, potentially bring in the town, which will be a little more complicated topic, but we could bring the town in and whether Sun Prairie or potentially town of Cottage Grove in the future. But I would just, it would be helpful to kind of start at some point and then kind of move from there. These things take time. They're not complicated. They can be complicated. It takes two entities to agree on something, but they are certainly beneficial to have a certainty of a line. It just provides so many benefits to government and to property owners going forward over time. So just put a little plug in there.
All right. Thanks, Brian. All right. If there aren't any other questions for either Brian or Jeff, we certainly appreciate your time, and this will continue the conversation around this.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we'll back up then, if the commission members are okay with that, to item 8. And we'll open the public hearing. This is an opportunity for public to provide input regarding the proposed ordinance 052021 regarding solar energy collection devices. There is both a memo and the ordinance in our agenda packet, but we'll open up for any public comments if there are any. Again, remind public to please share your name and your address, and again, hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes, so in case we do have others that want to speak, we work them in. I don't see anybody else on the Zoom, so we'll allow a few minutes just in case.
You want me to just start going over it in the meantime?
Yeah, we're in the public hearing. I think that's fine, and then I'll close it appropriately after that, Aaron. I think that's a good use of time. Thank you.
Sure. So basically the sections of our zoning ordinance that deal with solar energy, and there aren't a lot of them, I don't think have really kept up with the technology. There's a lot of different types of systems now than there were, I think, when the ordinance was written. So I reached out to our sustainability committee and asked them to take a look at best practices and find some examples and kind of use some of their own experience and knowledge to come to us with some draft language that we could take a look at. And they've done that. I met with them at their last meeting to kind of go over some of these things and make my suggestions to them. But basically this would involve changes to both the zoning ordinance and the subdivision ordinance. As far as the zoning ordinance, would be adding definitions for the different types of systems: roof-mounted, ground-mounted, canopy, and solar farms. We would be saying that the 3 accessory uses, so the ground-mounted, roof-mounted, and canopy, would be accessory uses that are permitted by right in any district. Solar farm, there's an image in the staff report. It's a much larger complex. It's a primary use. That would be something that's allowed in the industrial districts or in a rural holding district. Then within the land use section, we would have further regulations on each of those as far as dimensions and setbacks and things like that. And then the sustainability committee's recommendations as far as the subdivision ordinance, they had recommended putting some language in the ordinance encouraging developers when they're laying out the neighborhoods to have blocks oriented, and so the longer axis is east-west. On the theory that would provide more opportunities on each of the buildings for exposure to the south and for more solar panels. Just in the interest of testing that, I took a couple of satellite images of different parts of the village, one in West Lawn and one in the Tanglewood subdivision, which is a little bit older, and just kind of laid solar panels out on the roof to kind of test the veracity of that theory. And the blocks that are oriented east-west, I think, do on average get more panels on them. There's other factors, obviously, the complexity of the roof and the orientation of the building. Those are things we don't necessarily have a lot of control over on a single-family home, but we do have a little more control over how the streets are laid out, during the planning process. So I think there is some value in adding that language. It does include a lot of clauses and exceptions to that. That if there are environmental features in the way, or stormwater issues, or topography issues, or things like that, that could, you could adjust the layout accordingly. But in the absence of those features, we would try to take that solar orientation more into account.
Any questions or comments? And thanks, Aaron, for doing the legwork, as well as the sustainability committee and their efforts here.
We're very excited to work on it.
I know. Any questions or comments from commission members?
Oh, we have to close the public hearing.
Yes, we do. You're right, Fred, we do. At this point, I'll close the public hearing and move it on to commission members for comments and questions.
I just wanted to note that I really appreciate the thoughtful considerations taken by the Sustainability Committee members and Aaron to think about even the street directions and the different types of solar and planting of street trees too. Like, I wouldn't have thought of all those things, so I appreciate all that information. With this, I assume we aren't breaking ground on this ordinance language, that this is what other communities are doing as well? Or are we the first?
I don't believe so. They did a lot of research and looked at other ordinances, and I think they had the direction they wanted to go in, but I think they based the language on different ordinances.
Great. the committee members, we leveraged other communities' efforts. As
All
well
the
as
good
not.
parts.
All the good parts, as well as there's just several members on the sustainability that just have a wealth of knowledge in this area too as well.
And if you move this forward, we'll have our attorneys, Rick and Larry, take a look at it as well and make sure it all makes sense to them.
John, I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Well, just general question on ordinances, really in general. So, and then specifically this one. So, do we need this, right? So, adding layers of government, adding architecture around ordinances and language is a duplicative effort that something's already codified in state statutes or something with the county that we would lean to as opposed to writing our own. Of course, it makes sense to write it to sort of have that in our books as well. But is this duplicative effort and really required for us?
I think it's helpful to have this for anyone in the community. I don't even know if there's anything in the state level. I'm sure there's some in the county, but at the end of the day, we have responsibility over the village, and based on the old language in the current ordinance, it's as Aaron said, it's outdated, and it does not take into consideration the technology. And so I think it's worthwhile, in my opinion, to move forward with this. But again, the commission members certainly can weigh in on this.
Sure. I mean, if it had to be fixed anyway, it makes sense. It was just trying to make sure we're not duplicating efforts with other governing bodies that already covered.
There are different rules in different communities, and we just want to make sure we're not getting in the way of people implementing this if they want to do so.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Question. Other questions or comments?
I would think that this could help bring some more, bring this to light more for people too in our community. We've had people from solar companies going throughout our community and maybe seeing that we're working on it at the village level, it's just another added thing to put solar into people's minds too. And it probably gives people in our community more direction than what was previous. So I think I will make a motion to approve the Ordinance 05-2021 regarding solar energy collection devices.
Is there a second?
Second, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. Any further discussion? Having heard none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody opposed? Anybody abstain? Motion carries. All right. Then we jump right down to moving into a closed session. The closed session is discuss the boundary agreement negotiation. So I'll start off without saying this. I'd like to make a motion to go into closed session. The closed session is discuss the boundary agreement negotiating position, potential agreements involving the Village of Cottage Grove and the City of Madison. The Village of Cottage Grove Plan Commission will enter into a closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 parentheses 1 parentheses E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specific public business wherever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Alex.
I am. I don't see a link. Are we staying on this link or?
It will be sent through to your email, right, Aaron? Or maybe it already has been.
So Matt normally does that, so I didn't think of it, but I guess I can do that. Question for Rick, if there's no one from the public here, do we really have to do that?
Well, can't they get in though?
Yeah, somebody get
You got to
theoretically
turn off the
join.
mute channel. So yeah,
Right.
I think we still move to another meeting if you can.
Give me a second and I can set that up.
Unless you want to meet in person down at Village Hall.
All right, before we go into closed session, we do need to take a roll call on this. And then what happens, guys, is will come out and then come back into this meeting out of closed. So after we're done there. So just kind of the logistics of this. So,
All right. Brinkmeyer,
Aye.
Broom,
Aye.
Justin,
Aye.
Ratcliffe,
Aye.
Sale, Schultz, Schultz.
I said aye. I don't.
Oh, sorry.
didn't go
Williams?
through. Aye. All right, we'll move from this one to the next one. It's Aaron, did you get everybody? Get the email out?
Not quite. It'll be there in a minute.
Okay.